as an MP at the upcoming general election. My question to you is, how will her tenure as Prime Minister be measured, be judged by history? And do you think that Amber Rudd, who of course was her Home Secretary, was right when she said that Theresa May and the treatment of her during her tenure had the whiff of sexism about it by her own party? The lines are open now, 0345 6060 973. I have to say, I'm looking at a board of calls, all of which are saying she was just a terrible Prime Minister and sexism had nothing to do with it. If you have the opposite view, please pick up the phone, 0345 6060 973. In fact, if you're a woman, pick up the phone. We haven't got a single woman calling either, 0345 6060 973. Peter in Oxford, hello.
Hello, Sangita. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm afraid I'm ill.
Not a disappointment. I just wanted an array of voices.
I couldn't really comment on whether she was mistreated because she was a woman. I'm aware that women are the ones who can speak with more authority about that. I think it's simply a matter of not being very good at her job. And I think she probably meant well. I mean, she, by chance, she happens to have gone to my children's school. And I can, to a certain degree, have some sympathy with her.
Do you mean as a student?
She was a student, as a secondary student.
That was a grammar school, right? She used to make... Was it not a grammar school?
It was, but it's become a comprehensive.
Right.
But that's by the by. I do feel sorry for her. I think she was a bad judge of character. She probably wasn't very good with people. It's curious seeing that since she's been liberated from the job, she's actually proven to be more socially competent, and she can actually hold an audience now.
Yeah.
But I think she drew people like Nick Timothy into her circle, and I think that was a mistake, because I think a lot of advisors have their own agendas and push ideology before the country. And I think her big mistake in terms of how she'll be remembered was Lancaster House speech, where she said that her policy was to leave not only the European Union, which the referendum, some people said the referendum authorised her to do. We could argue about that forever, but it certainly never authorised anyone to bring forward a hard Brexit. And the customs union single market were never mentioned. And she thought by doing that she would earn brownie points with people like Peter Bone, of whom, of course, we have heard quite a lot more recently.
We have, haven't we?
And people like that,
disgraced
I think...
Peter Bone? I think we can describe him as that. I think that's fair.
The very same.
The disgraced
and I think if you try to throw red meat to people like that, then, first of all, you may get bitten, but secondly, they want more. And when she committed herself to that hard Brexit, they then pocketed that particular win, and they wanted her to go further. And, every attempt she made after that to compromise was bound to be portrayed as a betrayal. She wasn't letting the people down, but, she was seen as letting down the people in her party who had a very clear destructive agenda. And we know what's happened since. And we know how damaging, and obviously you've spoken about this many times, how damaging the kind of Brexit that she initiated has turned into. Obviously Boris Johnson took the next step, but if she hadn't actually set the groundwork for that, then who knows what might have happened. Because it would have been quite plausible to say, yes, the people voted to leave the European Union. We will see what we can do, looking at the evidence, looking at what's good for the country, and taking account of the fact that it was a narrow margin. We will leave the European Union, but do so in the least harmful way possible, and see it as a damage limitation exercise. That, I think, is where she failed completely. And then, of course, one can say, just speaking against myself, when I say that she was, a person with probity, I think it is to her discredit how she handled the Windrush affair. Yeah. You talked about it earlier. Amber Rudd was thrown under the bus, and that should never have happened. Because what Amber Rudd took the blame for was really something that Theresa May had done and should have taken responsibility for.
Although I could be wrong because my memory is hazy. I'm at that age, Peter. But my vague memory is that Amber Rudd, in the wake of that, attempted to throw the civil service under the bus for the Windrush scandal. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'll try and do a little search during the news, but that could be the case. May I ask you a quick question? Because you raised something very important, I think. Right at the beginning of this, when you said, Theresa May went to the school that my children went to, and Theresa May herself has reflected on the fact that you're quite right. So she went she started her school career at that school when it was grammar school, and then during, I think, the time she was there, it became comprehensive. She has spoken about how she felt carved out from the Conservative Party by a bunch of men who were old Harrovians, old Etonians, the Bullingdon Club boys, right? And that there has been historically a kind of discrimination within the upper echelons of the Tory party between those young people who are educated in state schools and those who are men educated in male boarding schools. I mean, since your children went to the same school, do you think there could be an element of truth in that?
I think it's very difficult to see how John Major could rise to the top now. I mean, he did in his time, and he was not a public school boy, and he had a very humble beginning, and he managed to get to the top in the Conservative Party of that time. I think it's been really very disappointing to see how much backwards they've slipped, and how the public school people are now in the ascendant there. I wouldn't attempt to defend that for a second. I think it's deeply to their discredit.
Peter in Oxford, thank you very much indeed for a very thoughtful call. Much appreciated. You're listening to Sangita, Myska. This is LBC. I'm asking you, how will history judge Theresa May's political career, particularly as Prime Minister and Home Secretary? And do you think she will be judged more harshly because she was a woman? 0345 6060 973. Ranjit Rob.